Hey, have you heard about my AI alter ego? That's right. Ask Alan Anything is now live, and we've trained it on my 13 books. We've trained it on over 200 podcasts. It has most of what's in here, not everything, but most of what's in here. And you can, when you're sitting around going, gee, I wonder what Alan would do in this situation, or I wonder what Alan would say in this situation. Well, now you can. Go to whatwouldallansay.com. Enter the coupon code podcast because you're going to get half off. It starts at only $10 a month. And now when you're thinking, I wonder what Alan say, now you can actually ask. Go to whatwouldallansay.com, enter the coupon code podcast, and start asking me anything. Your starting price is an anchor. Listen to this episode. See where I'm going. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg. I'm a speaker, author, sales trainer, website reviewer, and I help businesses like yours sell more, profit more, and have more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Hey, it's Alan Berg. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I've been talking about this book that I call it a book, but it's an online course, one of the great courses they call it on Audible about critical decision making, critical thinking. And I already talked about the sunk cost bias, and this is called the anchoring bias. And the anchoring bias is that when you're negotiating, right? And I'll just talk about this in terms of negotiation. The first number that's quoted is the number you negotiate from. And if you change that first number, the negotiation changes. So how does this come into play? Well, when you have, let's call it with a car, it's the example they used, you have the MSRP, the window sticker price, and that's the number that you negotiate from. If the car is in very high demand, they might say that's the price, no discount. Or even worse, they might say you have to pay a premium on top of that price because supply and demand is so short. I remember seeing that when I got my car. There was a car in the showroom that was asked, they were asking $10,000 above the asking price because this was such a rare vehicle. So supply and demand, of course, comes into play there. So, this comes into play with all of us, and why I'm so adamant against using starting price in most cases, unless there isn't a big range of pricing. If there isn't a big range of pricing for something, then starting price is fine. But going back to the car example, if you think of car ads and they say starting at, but then if you look at the fine print, it says price as shown, and it could be 10, 20, 30, 50%, or sometimes more than that, more because of all the options that are in there. I remember I was talking to a friend of mine who was looking to sell his business. And I had said to him, you give the number. You give the first number. And somebody else that he had talked to said, no, don't give the number. Let them give the number. And it turned out that the number that they gave was way lower than the number that he wanted. And I said, right, now you're negotiating up, or you're trying to, from their number instead of from your number. They're trying to negotiate you down to their number. And the starting point is the anchor. And that's why only one number, starting price, is hurting you, because you have people that, first of all, think you may not be able to do better work than that because you say this number, and people that can afford more very often are reluctant to pay less because they're not going to get the results that they want, right? And you're selling from the bottom up. How many people actually buy that starting price thing? It's rare, right? Most of the time you don't. If you have a range of pricing and there's 50% difference, or double or triple or sometimes more than that from bottom to top, how many people buy that bottom thing? Every time I see an ad that says starting at, I wonder how many people actually get that. Like an ad for tires, how many people actually buy the $50 tire? I know every time I've gotten a tire in the last, 10 years or more, it's been hundreds of dollars. I don't know what that $50 tire is for. Maybe it's a bicycle or something like that. So starting price is anchoring this. So if you have on your website or on your brochure or on your advertising starting at, What you're doing is you're anchoring that number, and that's what somebody thinks they're going to pay. Just like you and I do, human nature. If you see starting at, it's almost like the words starting at don't exist, and it's like that's what it costs. But then the one you want doesn't cost that because it's got other features, it's got other things in it. Again, supply and demand can be in there as well. So I've said this. I can't even remember how many years I've been talking about this with the pricing. It's got to be a decade or more, where I'm talking about how the four ways to talk about price: tell them, don't tell them, starting price, and range. Right? Written about that in Shut Up and Sell More. Why are they ghosting me? It's in there. And the reason that the starting price is not good in most cases, not all, is because you're anchoring that low number, selling from the bottom. We should be selling to their results. We should not be selling to their budget. And when they see a number and then you talk about results, they associate that number with those results, and then you give them a different number, and there's a disconnect, there's dissonance in there between the number they thought it was going to cost and then the number you tell them. And that's why giving them a range, especially if that range goes past what most people spend, now when you tell them a number that's lower than that top number, now all of a sudden they feel like, oh, well, you're not trying to sell me the top thing you have, because that's also not right for most people. Most people. For some people, it is. They just want everything. Most of my clients who have three packages sell the middle and the top. The middle sells the most, the top sells the next most. Most people don't buy the bottom. And that's why if you only had a starting price, it would be that bottom package number, assuming you have packages, the bottom package number. And now you're trying to sell in the middle or the top, which is usually significantly more. So this is, again, a type of a bias called an anchoring bias. If you've never bought something before, you don't have any idea what it should cost. That's called framing, right? We frame this decision based upon previous decisions we've made. Well, if we've never made this decision before, we don't know what it costs. And that's why without a number, without anything to compare it to, any number you say sounds like a lot because they're comparing it to zero. Zero is what they've spent before. Now you're asking them to spend money. Anything is that. That's why when you give them a range and you tell them a number that's less than the top number in that range, you've anchored those two numbers. You've framed it that way. Now that number has something to compare to. All right. I've been talking to a company that I've been consulting with about this, about pricing. And I said, this is a new product. This is something they've never spent money on before. And therefore, any number you tell them sounds like a lot because they're comparing it to zero. So is there something we can compare this to? Like, how would they solve this issue without this? Now put a number on that. Or if you want to talk about opportunity cost, is can you quantify what they're losing or missing out on in terms of sales and profits by not doing this? Now there's a number to compare it to and say, oh, it'll only cost us this to not lose this money, right? So that's what framing is all about. But the anchoring bias says if you just do a starting price, we're negotiating from that number and you're working harder to work from the bottom up than from the top down. Much easier to tell someone it's a number higher and then take things away to work your way down to a number that works for them and for you, that they will be buying the results they're getting from you. You're happy with the profit you're getting at that number. That works. Now, again, I've said this before, I'm not going to belabor it here, which is if you lower the dollars, you have to get something of value back in return. So reducing the products or services, right? Or something that's giving you value back. Otherwise, you're just giving away profit. And we don't want to give away profit. So be careful of the anchoring bias. If you're using the starting price, I would take a really hard look at that and say, is this the best way to do this? Or could I have some more price and transparency, which I spoke about on a recent episode, and have a price range instead? So now I've put two numbers instead of just anchoring in this low number that almost nobody is ever going to buy that thing at the low number. Hope it gives you something to think about. You need help with it? You know where to find me, or ask Alan anything. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe to this channel and post a review on your chosen platform, Apple Podcasts or whichever one. If you have any questions about anything in this episode or any of my episodes, email me directly at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com or visit my website, alanberg.com, alanberg.com. If you have any suggestions for future topics or guests that you'd like to see, please again email me or visit my website. Thanks for listening.